Okay, I think we're in. So, hi. Hello. If we want to start with just an introduction and like what interests you, what's your subject area, kind of just introduce yourself, really.
Sure. So you want my name?
Yes, please.
I'm Adrian Wilson, and you might possibly be able to detect as we move along, if you listen carefully, that I'm Australian.
Yeah.
And I think the first question you wanted to ask was, how did I get into my subject area?
What's your main area?
Here I am in a history of science outfit. I'm one of the historians of medicine in it. And like a lot of people in history of science, I'm a refugee. Not all. Greg Raddick is an exception. But like many of them, I'm a refugee from science.
Mm-hmm.
But I took a very long way out and a very long way back in. I started off as a medical student. Then there was a year doing psychology. That enabled me to wriggle out of medicine with a degree, so I didn't finish the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided I wanted to do social history, so I did social history. And I wasn't at that stage at all thinking of history of science, history of medicine. I had vaguely heard of them both.
You just want what you were interested in.
And then a series of things drew me from social history towards and then into history of medicine. And then eventually I'm as much now, I think, a historian of science as a historian of medicine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, so you covered all bases then.
Way to go.
Yeah, so history of medicine. Me and Sian actually were both in your module last year.
Yeah.
History of modern medicine.
Yeah, it was really interesting. What sort of shifted you away from studying medicine towards more like psychology things?
Sorry, what did you ask? Was that a question?
Yeah, what shifted you away from studying medicine?
I see. Oh, well,
yeah.
I think it's pretty simple. I mean, I wasn't very conscious or aware of it at the time, so I can now articulate it much better than I could when it happened. But I think it was really as simple as this. I wanted to do something about people.
Mm-hmm.
And in medicine, you were studying machines. Or you were studying people as if they were machines. Here is the heart. Here are the lungs. Here are how they work. Yeah. But no people stuff in there. No politics. No history.
Mm.
No literature.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Whereas my friends tended to be people doing art subjects, history and politics, philosophy, English literature. One of them, my best friend, was doing classics.
Wow. So you just got chatting to everyone, and it was all.
Well, I could see they were doing much more interesting things, than I was. I mean, the gallbladder's great, but Goethe is crazy, and so on. So yeah, that's the fundamental reason. I mean, there's also politics in there and all sorts, but yeah.
What would you say is your main area of research within the history of medicine?
Well, remember I said I went via social history.
Yeah.
Well, what I got really interested in was the history of childbirth.
Mm.
Now, childbirth can be reformulated, if you like, as midwifery.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in this phase when, if I was talking to the historians of medicine, I'd say, I do history of midwifery.
Yeah.
Or if I was talking to social historians, I'd say, I do history of childbirth. Or sometimes the other way around. Sometimes, I'd say to historians of medicine, oh, no, I'm not a historian of medicine. I don't expect me to know about that. But I do know about social history. I know about history of childbirth and vice versa. I got away with that for quite a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my first book was about that was on that topic.
Mm.
And that's kind of part of how I got from social history into history of medicine. That's part of that story. Another important part of that story is there were jobs in history of medicine,
Yeah.
thanks to the Wellcome Trust.
Yeah.
There were very few jobs in social history. So around the time I was finishing my PhD and a few years after, I had two very good friends, both of whom had produced books, neither of whom got or went for academic jobs. One went to work in the charitable sector, and one went to work in university administration, rightly figuring that there just weren't jobs. Now they turned their theses into books.
Wow.
But couldn't get academic jobs. This is in the 1980s.
Yeah.
I got several lucky breaks, and a key part of that was the availability of funding from the Wellcome Trust to do history of medicine. So I got pulled into history of medicine by the force of money.
Yeah.
But I also found it interesting.
Yeah.
I also got very, very lucky. So that was one way I was lucky. Another way I was extremely lucky was to meet Andrew Cunningham, who taught me history of medicine. I've never had any formal instruction at all in either history of medicine or history of science.
That must have been so.
And actually, I've not had very much formal instruction in social history. I'm almost entirely self-taught or taught by individuals who, in Cunningham's case, were very helpful and patient. And he taught me a very great deal. And I count myself very, very fortunate indeed to have learnt from such a mentor, because he's the finest, I think he's the finest historian of medicine probably ever.
Yeah.
I may be biased.
Let's keep watching this, huh?
But he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I don't always agree with him, but he's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how you can just sort of come across people and ideas that sort of influence your whole career, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the chance individual meeting, and I'll tell you something else that's worth mentioning. The person who introduced me to Andrew Cunningham, who is a person who's introduced a lot of people to each other and to things, was the famous Roy Porter.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Roy was an amazing man. After he died, I learned many things that I hadn't before when the obituaries came out. For example, he used to play postal chess.
Wow.
Now, I've played postal chess and I know how time consuming it can be. Now, Roy, I mean, I knew when...
You could have played him then, couldn't you?
Sunday night, Roy had one time he invited me to one of his dinner parties, and I screwed up and I forgot. I forgot the invitation. And I rang him up and said, "Oh, Roy, I'm really sorry." He said, "Don't worry," he said, "come next week."
Wow.
He had a dinner party every Sunday night.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
That's what I aspire to do.
And it was at one of those occasions that I really first started to get to know Andrew, but he'd also introduced me to Andrew in another way. Yeah. Roy was amazing, a prodigious guy.
Yeah.
He had an allotment.
Wow.
He went and dug an allotment, and he's so busy. He's producing these books, and absolutely amazing guy. And I haven't even started to talk about the wives or the other women. And that's a very long story. The little I know a long story. Oh, what a guy! Yeah.
Well,
he was prodigious.
Talking about the books that you've published, do you have any advice for being published in a journal to students who could be watching this?
Yeah, I had a big think about this one.
It's a question. I think.
So, first of all, pick your journal carefully. Right? Make sure it's the right journal for you. Hunt around, look. Then, having picked your journal, study it. Look at the kinds of things they publish. Look at the ways that the articles are structured.
Yeah.
Things like, do they have a word limit? If they do, be very, very aware of it, because they're not going to publish anything that you send. They just send it straight back if it's over the word limit.
Mm.
And look at the last 3 to 5 years and pick out 3 or 4 articles that you think are really good, and study them. Look at how they're put together. How does this one start? How does that one start? What's the structure?
Yeah.
How does the end match up to the beginning? Is it divided into sections, and in what way? Get a feel for how to build an article.
Yeah. I definitely feel like that's something that you've touched on in your seminars that I've gone to, about looking at a body of text as the way it's formatted just as much as the content.
You're right. Absolutely, yes, very true. That's not wonderful. Yeah, I do think the form of a text is absolutely crucial to how you read it, and it's also crucial to how you write it.
Yeah.
So then you do all that, you write your article, then there's 2 more things, or 3 things to do. So the first one is get some feedback from other people.
Other people's opinions.
And the trick is give them a deadline. Dear Professor Raddick,
poor Greg's gonna
I am intending
to
submit this to such and to British Journal of History of Science.
Yeah.
I would appreciate feedback by the end of April. You will find you'll get the feedback.
Yeah.
If you don't give a deadline,
an ultimatum.
So get the feedback and pay attention to the feedback. And the more people you send it to, the better, frankly.
Yeah.
So that's the next step. Then you revise it and submit it. That's the next step. And then what do you think you do after you submit it? It's a very important step.
Send it out.
I don't know. You've sent it off to the journal.
You've sent it off
out
already.
of your hands.
Tell people about it.
No. Well, yes, one person you tell about it. God, have you heard of prayer? You pray.
Oh.
This is a crucial step, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's completely in the lap of the gods what will happen. And I have heard many, many stories from people. Not long ago, I heard a story from someone that one referee said, absolutely fantastic article, got to publish it. Other referee said, no, maybe. Article rejected.
Really?
Yeah.
It's getting like that. Competition is so intense. The journal editors, in the better journals, the not so good journals, there's scratching around for copy sometimes, but the good journals have got vastly more coming in than they can publish.
Yeah. You said you were oh, go on, Sian.
Sorry. I was just going to say.
So they'll find any excuse to.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
How did it feel like the first time you got published in a journal? Because I always think that would be such like an amazing feeling.
To be able to hold a book.
Yeah, or just like an article that you've written.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I mean, fair enough.
I'll tell you what I do remember, though. I remember the first time I had praise for such a piece. And it was the second piece I'd published, I think. And somebody I knew, this is the days before email, somebody I knew wrote me a letter saying, someone I knew who I'd consulted, had some advice about in the preparation of the article, said, congratulations, such and such an eminent person, and it was a very eminent person, had noticed my article, and she said, congratulations, which was beautiful and gracious of her. I remember that. I remember being very buoyed up by that. The actual moment, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah.
You said your first book was on the history of midwifery. Does that mean you've written more? And if so, what have you...
the number has doubled since then.
Really?
Wow.
There's 2 of them. Every 20 years I come out with a book.
Wow.
Yeah, what a rate. If I live to 200, there'll be 10 books.
Yeah.
I fully intend to live to 200.
Yeah.
So there's 2 books on history of childbirth.
Oh, right. interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Of different kinds, but yeah.
Yeah. The next question is actually, what's your favorite book? So I wonder if that's your own book.
You know, have you ever heard of the singer Elizabeth Schwarzkopf?
I feel like I've heard that
yes.
She's
name.
a soprano.
Oh.
You know Desert Island Discs?
Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
She is famous for the following. When she came on Desert Island Discs, every single disc that she gave was one of her own.
Really? That's bold.
Yep.
Mm.
No, my favorite books are.
You gotta respect
Well, there's how many different ways can you know? I mean, I think
there's a lot. I know it's a
this
tough
is
question.
Can you see it?
Rhetorical figures.
It's sort of
science?
blurred with your background a little bit.
Rhetorical
figures in science by Jean Farnstock.
Mm.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I taught a course on rhetoric. I got interested in rhetoric, decided that the easiest way to learn about it will be to teach a course on it. Suggested to the school that I teach a course. Got lucky, they gave me the opportunity to do the course, which of course gave me the time to do the prep.
Yeah.
I spent the best part of the year just building up resources. Never came across that book. At the last minute, I was just about to start teaching. I come across it. Why was it good? Well, first of all, because it was about science, rhetorical figures in science. It was easy for me to connect to, I guess, because a lot of history of science in it. Then when I started to read it,
did it just hook you in straight away?
Well, my view is, I'm dead serious about this. My view is that in the theory of rhetoric, the original and great person was Aristotle.
Yeah.
And Farnstock is the best since Aristotle.
Wow.
That's how I rate her.
Oh, we'll have to give it a read then.
Yeah.
Oh,
you set the bar high.
It's a wonderful book. It's a very, 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 very clever idea behind it. Yeah, if we're not careful, we'll spend the next hour and a half.
I know we should
have a little lecture on rhetoric and Farnstock for me. So you better change the subject swiftly.
Well, to move on then, what would be your favorite film?
Similar
question. I know it's really hard to narrow it down.
Oh no, it's not in my case.
Really?
No. There's no difficulty with this one. It's Casablanca.
Oh, I've heard it's so good, but I've honestly never watched it. I've seen the last scene.
Well, in a way, you're lucky because a great treat is in store, but it's so good you can just go on and on and on and on and on and on watching it. There's a great story. Ingrid Bergman, the female star, told this story once. She sometime went to some club in New York, which was devoted to that film.
Wow.
And they showed that they had a sort of special occasion for her and showed a screening, and the sound broke down.
Oh, no.
So there's the film with no sound. No problem at all. The audience supplied the dialogue. Wow. They all knew every single word.
That's when you know it's a good film.
But I have another curious story about Ingrid Bergman and that film. If you look at the titles, it says based on, and to my shame, I can't remember, it's based on a play not called Casablanca by someone nobody's ever heard of. But it's based on a play that was written around that time, but not long after the play came out, the film was made.
Wow.
Somebody put this to Bergman in an interview, 20, 30, 40 years later. He said, now, what about this play that Casablanca? He said, oh, no, it's not based on a play. It's just an original screenplay.
Right.
It's up there in the titles. And she is the star.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
The play has been completely forgotten. But it's a wonderful movie. It's beautifully made, and it's tremendously political. because it's all about supporting America's entry into the war.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So you've got in play America, symbolized by the character Rick, who is wonderfully played by Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
And then you've got France in play, and you've got the Germans in play, and beautiful, beautiful.
Wow,
beautiful.
I definitely need to watch that.
Black and white.
I've just had a notification saying that I've got 5 minutes left. Will it carry on recording if it's like over the meeting time? Sorry.
I've got no idea.
Should be okay, I think.
Yeah, I think it should do, hopefully.
Okay. Well, we best keep going then, because we're only halfway through the question.
The next one is, if you could travel anywhere in time, where would you go and why?
Well, it's
difficult one for historian.
I have a couple of answers to this question. I think I'll give you the quicker answer, and the quicker answer is I'd go back to upstate Tennessee in the 1950s, and I would get in the car with Carl Perkins when he goes to Memphis to meet Elvis Presley.
Nice. Elvis Presley. Yeah, that is a good answer, honestly.
Yeah.
Perkins was a great guy. He's the guy who wrote Blue Suede Shoes.
Oh, right, okay. So you're a music fan then as well?
Well, of my era.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well then,
I absolutely love early rock and roll. But I'm of the Beatles, Rolling Stones era, so
yeah.
I tend to prefer the remakes, actually.
Really?
Ooh, interesting.
Well, if you've ever heard the Rolling Stones version of Little Red Rooster?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Another treat in store for you.
Need to write a list.
That. It's the most wonderful, fantastic song.
So maybe
you go back to the original written by Willie Dixon. You think, now we're going back to the original. Sorry.
Good.
Stones are better.
Yeah. Well,
hate to say it.
If you could have a conversation with anybody.
Stones took it as raw material and they made it better. But Perkins was absolutely amazing guy, and he was very explicit that he the music he created drew on both black and white roots. And his parents were cotton pickers, white cotton pickers.
Yeah.
You don't have an image of those in your mind, do you? He was from very, very humble origins indeed.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to get in this car. I imagine it's a sort of Ford pickup truck, early mid-50s, and we're on dusty roads, and
riding down the highway.
He can talk to me about his band and his ambitions and his music writing, and why he's going to see this fella called Elvis Presley over in Memphis.
Well, that leads on quite well, Adrian, because the next question was, if you could speak to anybody, living or dead, who would it be? So you have to pick one person. Would it be someone from the music era that you're talking about?
No, it'd be Aristotle.
Yeah, I thought so. What would you ask him? Sorry, that's a tough question.
Yeah, no, actually, I do have a specific question for Aristotle. It's about rhetoric. So I'm going to be very boring again, which you can see I'm skilled at, a lot of practice on that. I'm going to say, Aristotle, your book on rhetoric, some people say it's a how to do it manual. It's read my book on rhetoric. And other people, including me, say, no, it's not a how to do it manual. It's a theorization of how does rhetoric persuasion work. Which was it? Which is your intention? You didn't make it clear. Yeah. I'm not going to say to him, you don't write very well, because he doesn't. I'm not going to say that. I'm polite.
Not sure that would go down very well.
I'm polite. I am going to say you have a great mind, because he did. Yeah.
I'm sure he heard a lot as well.
What's that?
I said I'm sure he heard that a lot.
I hope so. He deserved to. He's the greatest mind that's ever lived.
Yeah.
I can't even think of anyone who remotely comes close.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
In talking cricket terms, he's the Don Bradman of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been getting up early to watch the cricket?
No, I love watching cricket, but it's just such.
4 a.m.
It hoovers up time.
Yeah, it
It
does.
hoovers up time. So I like reading about it, and I follow it, and I'm incredibly impressed with how the England team has done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just hope to God the Australians beat them in the end. I don't want us to lose to you guys.
Yeah. Okay, and then what's the next question, Sian? Have you got it?
Yeah. So this is moving on to more advice. So it's, what would you tell any new students joining the university in the next few years?
I would say this: make the most of your opportunities.
Mm.
This is going to be a wonderful time. You are very privileged to have the chance of higher education at all. Make the most of the education and all the facilities.
Yeah.
But make the most of all the other opportunities, the social opportunities, the sporting opportunities, the activities opportunities, the volunteering opportunities. Don't just study. Study hard, make the most of it.
Yeah, it goes so quickly as well.
Yeah, I can't believe we're third now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just, it goes so quickly, and then you don't want to feel any regrets, I guess. You didn't join it.
You can always carry on and do a master's course.
Yeah,
it's
true.
It's quite a few people, I've known quite a few students over the years, well, a handful, who just needed one more year to sort of consolidate.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, typically these were students for whom things had started to click in the third year, and it's a bit more clicking needed to happen. So for some students that happens earlier, some students it happens later, but some students just need a master's. We tend to see masters as a preparation for a PhD and so on, but some people just find a master's year, kind of rounds it off.
Yeah, me and Sian are actually thinking about it at the moment. We're debating whether or not we want to do history of science at a master's level. So we'll see. And then the final question is, what's your number one piece of advice you'd give students just generally? Like your big golden nugget.
Okay, I have that.
Yeah.
Take regular exercise.
Okay. Interesting, yeah.
And preferably, not necessarily, but preferably in a team game if you can. The reason for doing a team game is partly social opportunity, but above all, discipline. You know, I don't feel like doing my squats, I won't. I don't feel like going to, if I don't go to hockey practice, I'm not going to get in the team. But regular exercise is so important. Healthy body, healthy mind.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a fantastic stress buster.
Yeah.
I gather from psychology students that the following is the case. If you got something been stressing you out and on your mind, that's upset, boyfriend, girlfriend problem, whatever it might be, and you take half an hour when that's not on your mind, just half an hour, it hugely reduces the stress.
Yeah.
You don't have to have 3 days off stress. 30 minutes off, well, you get that. If you have stressful exercise, you can't worry about the bloody boyfriend. You're chasing the squash ball. So, exercise.
Okay.
You have great opportunities because of the sports facilities at university.
Yeah.
Did you do any sports when you were at university?
No.
Is this something you've learned later?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I did.
Yeah.
I'll just play in cricket then.
Cricket came when I was at school. The people who got the help at playing cricket were the people who were already good.
Right.
And the people who didn't get the help were people who were very bad at cricket. I was very bad at anything involving a ball, skills, hands, legs, running, or fitness.
Yeah. I don't have great hand-eye coordination either.
But one of the lucky things happened to me in Cambridge was that the college I was at, a very enterprising student from Pakistan set up a cricket team, had cricket practice. I got some practice. He gave me advice on how to hold a bat. how to bowl a ball, and I spent a few years playing cricket, kind of once a fortnight in the summer. And some of my happiest memories are.
I bet they are. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So you were in Cambridge.
Yeah.
How many years were you there for? And how did you find it?
Well, I suppose all in all, over 10 years.
Wow.
So this was one of my big lucky break was I got what's called a research fellowship at Cambridge.
Yeah.
I was very, very lucky to get it indeed. That's how I met Roy Porter, which is how I met Andrew Cunningham, amongst many, many, many other things, and cricket, and the university library, and all sorts of things. So that was one of the big lucky breaks.
That's so
yeah.
Wow.
And it was, Oxford and Cambridge are very snobby, snooty sort of places. But if you go in as a research fellow, you have high status. So people take you seriously. I think they were quite mistaken in my case to take me seriously. I didn't know my arm from my leg, but it's honestly, I'm afraid it's true. Whereas I know people who've gone to Cambridge as graduate students have been utterly, utterly miserable because of the competitiveness and the snobbishness and the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Gotta
go in headstrong.
Sorry?
You just got to go for it,
Yeah, well, luck is a pretty handy thing to have.
Yeah.
That was I've had several very, very lucky breaks. Leeds was another.
Yeah.
The other big one. And there's several little ones in between, but those are my two big.
Yeah.
The research fellowship in Cambridge and the permanent job in Leeds.
I'm a little worried that we've lost that last end bit because it says that the recording is 25:52 and it's just stopped. So I hope we've caught most of it, and I hope it doesn't just abruptly cut out. We'll have to fix it.
On my screen it says it's been recording for 37 minutes.
Oh, does it?
So
if we both just try and save it, then
I think it's only you recording it.
Okay.
So hopefully
well, if we have to do this again, I'm warning you, it might be all different.
That's okay. So,
I might completely change my mind.
Thank you so much for joining us, Adrian. It's been really interesting.
It was a real pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.
That's okay.
Making it so much fun.
All right.